So welcome to another episode of Smokey and the One-Armed Bandit. Today we're going to be fixing the fact that our first episode for an LS build had no LS in it. So we've gone and got ourselves one of them. We've also going to be testing the internet to see if the sump that the internet says you need actually clears without needing to modify anything on the subframe. So let's get stuck into it. I'm excited. So here it is, the thing I spent a bunch of money on. So this is an LS1, probably from VX or something, Commodore. Don't know enough about Commodores to really be stating which one it should have came out from, but it's already spewed its guts all over the trailer, so it's going to fit in well with all the other engines around here and all the ones I've had in the past. It's got OK written on it. Not sure if that's supposed to be like a grade or they're saying it's ready to go, but anyway, time to get this thing out the trailer and on the engine stand.
Like he nearly flicked the rock at the car, that's how hard he came.
Even he loves a good LS, don't you, mate? So I've headed back up the hill this morning in the E30 here. Yesterday didn't quite go to plan. So I thought I might drop the oil after I got it out the trailer, just to make sure there was no leaks that got on the floor while it's sitting around. And about 3 litres of water came out, which is pretty interesting. Oh, yeah, this might be junk. That's water. So this morning, what we're going to do is take the sump off, see what damage it's done to the inside by the water being there, see if the engine's even salvageable, and see what we can do about speaking to the seller and maybe getting a little bit of money back. We bought this on the internet, so I haven't got my hopes too high for that, but it's worth a try, I guess. Hard to see, but the bores at least at the bottom of below the piston don't look too bad. The cam's also not looking too bad. It's a bit harder to see up there. So we're still going all right, but we're going to take the heads off just to take a look, because I'm concerned the water might sat on top of the pistons and possibly left some rust on the bores. So time to take the heads off. So I just pulled the head off this bank. Actually looks pretty good. Still hone marks there. There's no sign of rust or pitting or anything like that from the water, which is honestly kind of a little surprising to me. I thought for sure there'd be some damage. So I've got to pull the other side off. I'd rather just pull the other side off and make sure I know what I'm dealing with. But my thoughts are if one side's all right, most likely the other side, hopefully at least, will be all right. We're going to have to pull this engine apart anyway and do a few bits and pieces to it. So we're just putting the head back on loosely, as in not tightening it down to torque specs or anything like that. We're going to pull the other side off, and hopefully that's just as good as this side, and it should be happy days. So upon a bit further investigation, looks like 2 of the cylinders did actually have marks on them on the second bank that I had a look at. Just at the top, it looks like the pistons had been sitting just at the top of the stroke, and they had done a little bit of damage to the bores. Not a lot though. So what we did was just got some really fine sandpaper, ran over it a few times. Those marks pretty much disappeared. So what we're thinking we're going to actually do is we're going to have to hone it anyway and put rings in it. So we're probably just going to do the same thing. It looks, or we think at least, that the hone will get rid of any of those marks, and we should be A-OK. So now I've got myself an engine, I need to figure out how I'm going to fit it into the car. So the first thing I need to do is get myself a sump that's going to work. From what I've seen of everyone else building similar sort of LS into E46, they've all used this Holley sump that I've got here. Paid about $600 for it Australian. Comes with pickup and O-rings and a few other bits and pieces, bolts and such. And it looks like a pretty nice unit. It looks reasonably well cast. Looks very OE, so pretty happy with that. Obviously I've got to test fit it, make sure it actually does fit in the car properly like the internet says it has. But yeah, so I've got myself that. It's about $600. I've also gone and got myself the Motorsport baffle that goes inside. So you can see it's upside down at the moment, but it's got trapdoors and a few other bits and pieces to make sure that oil starvation isn't a thing. And obviously, being a motorsport-oriented car, I don't want oil starvation. And yeah, so I've got that there. That cost another $300. Which isn't too bad really. These are pretty nicely made bits and pieces, so I don't mind too much. The only thing that I did notice is the baffle doesn't quite fit in as nicely as I really would like it to. So if I put it in here, it's a bit hard to fit sometimes. If I put it in here, obviously it bolts through these 2, another 2 at the back. But it doesn't actually fit flat on those bosses. There's actually, it's probably about, there's a couple of mil at least between where the bosses are and where the holes are. And so if I try and bolt that up right now, it's just going to bend the plate and ruin the sump baffle. So I've rung Holley about it, and they were all pretty good. They said I could send it back. They said that I got all the right parts, but it's just obviously not quite made right. I believe this thing is, at least it looks like it's probably somewhat handmade in some aspects. So, you know, these kind of things happen. They said I could send it back, but they also said if I wanted to, I could shave down this part here and it would end up fitting. I think that's what I'll actually do. It's a bit too much hard work to send it back to America when it could be pretty easily fixed, I reckon. So these are the part numbers for it. So this sump is a 302-1 from Holley, and the baffle is a 302-10. So they're what I'm using. Obviously I've got to put them in the car and make sure that they all fit like I think they should. But looking at them on the bench, I think they should be pretty good and fit nicely in around the subframe. So now I've got the engine pretty well sorted. I know what's going on with it. It's now time to start mounting them all together in the car. And as you probably see there, the gearbox and the engine's all tied down in the trailer. So is the E46. Reason behind this is I'm actually going to get someone else to mount them in for me. Probably about a month ago, I was looking on a website for a local Adelaide-based company called Tuff Mounts. Might recognise that name from the Skid Factory videos. They've done quite a few conversions with their products, and basically they do a lot of Barra and LS conversions amongst other things. Yeah, I was looking on their website, see if they did a kit that would work for this swap, and I couldn't find anything. So a couple of weeks later, I had a post come up on my Facebook from those guys, and I thought I'll just comment on there and see if they want to do some measurements on what I've got here, so maybe they can make kits for the future so it's a bit easier for everyone else trying to do it. And they actually messaged me back and said, hey, how about you bring your car down instead? It's a bit hard to do these kits and get them right when we're just working from measurements. So bring the car down, bring the gearbox and the motor. what they'll basically do then, they're gonna build some jigs so they can create product for the future for this swap. And then also once they've built the jig, they need to test and make sure it all works. So they're going to build one set of mounts, and I'll end up with them and they'll end up in the car. So originally was going to do it all myself, but if I can get professionals to help me out with it, make sure that it's mounted properly, and not have to mess around ourselves and waste a whole bunch of time trying to fit it in there, then yeah, I'm pretty happy. So we're going to take that down there today, drop it off, and in about 2 or 3 weeks we should have a mounted LS in the E46. Well, we made it.